For greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city.
Okay, let's turn to Matthew chapter 6, verse 19. Says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And then go down to verse 24. It says, no one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And so my question is for you is, how do you lay up treasure in heaven? Because that's what it says that we should do. Is we shouldn't focus on building up and keeping treasure here on earth, or getting treasure here on earth, but we should focus on getting ourselves treasure in heaven. And you do that by doing His will. You serve Him, and when you're serving God, then you're going to do whatever He says to do. And doing His will, the pretty much that goes for everyone, is by giving of your finances, preaching the gospel, winning souls, supporting other works in the ministry, doing what He says to do to help the poor, reach out, be a light to the world. That's for everyone. And then of course then you have the individual will that the Lord has for everyone, the specific plan for each and every person that isn't necessarily for everyone. And that could be whether you're supposed to go into business, whether you're supposed to go into the ministry, working full time, serving the Lord in the ministry, or anything else, being a singer or being an actress, being whatever career it is that God has for you, whatever the Lord specifically has planned for you. I don't know how many of you remember when we listened to Driven by Eternity series by John Bevere, and he says, he gave an example of how the one who was supposed to be a pastor didn't become a pastor, but he went into business instead. And then there was this one who was a pastor, but then was supposed to be in business. Well, they didn't lay up treasure for themselves because they did not do what the Lord wanted them to do. Some may be that they don't even seek the Lord on what the Lord wants them to do, and they just go ahead and just do what they want to do. They didn't consult the Lord first. So it's really important too that you need to consult the Lord on what it is that He has and what He wants you to do with your life. Really, it's ultimately God's life, but it's this life that He has given us. What are you supposed to do with it? And once you find that out, then you need to do it. And when you do what He says to do, then you will lay up treasure for yourself in heaven. And so, we need to check ourselves. Can you say where your treasure is? Do you know where your treasure is? Is most of your treasure here on earth, or is it in heaven? Does your life show evidence? Would it be evident in your life that your treasure is in heaven? You can look, you can, examine yourself. You can look and see where, for instance, where is your focus? Is your focus always about money? Is your mind constantly on that? What what are your spending habits? If you look at your spending habits, is it constantly on things for yourself to enjoy, buying things, material goods, vacations, whatever it is? Are you spending it more on yourself than you are spending it on God? Those are great ways to really find out for yourself, where is your treasure? That shows your spending habits when you look at that, and your mind as well. What is your mind constantly on? Those are great gauges to tell you, and show you where you have your treasure, and it shows you where your priorities are. When God is your master, then you won't let other things get in the way of serving Him. I've seen over, many times, a couple of times, I would notice on Facebook, some of the people that I'm friends with, I didn't see them in church, and then later on I'll see on Facebook, oh, they spent the Sunday in Disney World, or they went out somewhere, to go out on an outing with their family, and I'm like, okay, so, kind of made me question, like, how important was church for them? That they took their Sunday for themselves instead of being in church. The Bible says in Hebrews 10:25, it says, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. This says, as the manner of some don't assemble themselves together with others, with other believers. And it says to not forsake that. Don't forget to assemble together yourselves with other believers. For exhorting one another. Going to church and gathering together with other believers, it's encouraging. First of all, too, you also learn from the shepherd of that church. That's what God set in place. He set in place pastors to help shepherd the sheep, to teach them, to guide them in that way. And then also, it's good when you gather together to build yourself up and to encourage each other. When you meet up with your other brothers and sisters, and you see, you ask them, you find out how they're doing. If you don't necessarily see them during the week, then that's a great time to get together and find out how each other are doing, and encourage one another. It's making priorities, making the priorities that need to be made first. Like when I was briefly when I briefly worked in a supermarket, and knowing that a supermarket, they're in the States they're open on Sundays, and they have longer hours, and I needed to work in a supermarket because at that point. I needed to work 9 hours, and then on the weekends, because that was when I had Abigail, and I couldn't work during the day because I was home with her home during the day. So obviously then I had to work an alternate schedule so that Jacoby would be home with her. But of course I made sure though, I knew that they're open on Sundays and they most likely may want me to work, but I told them when I applied, I said I need Sundays off. Or I said, if Sundays is an absolute must, then I would prefer, the afternoon shift, so that I would have the morning for church. And obviously, for me, if they were not going to give me the opportunity to have the Sundays off, then I would have had to look elsewhere for a job, because my priority was to not miss church. And many people here, I don't know, here or many people, anywhere in the States or here, now the church isn't really top priority for them. They'll go ahead and just get whatever job that they can get and work on Sundays. They don't, And so it's kind of like, well then what's your priority? What's your master? Is money that important that you can't be willing to continue to look for a different job? Or to trust the Lord to bring you a job where it will not require you to work on the days of their service? It was the same thing with, Pastor Sappho, he said before, when they asked him, can you work Sundays? He flat out told them, no, I cannot work Sundays. And if that was a requirement, then he would have definitely he would not have taken that job. Because he wanted to make sure he puts God first. That comes first and foremost. And not just with job, it should be with anything. If your priority is God, then you're going to make sure that nothing gets in the way of that priority. Let's go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 2. It says, set your affection on things above, not on things of the earth. The definition for affection, it says, to direct one's mind to a thing, to seek, to strive for. So what is your mind directed towards? What do you constantly seek? What do you strive for? Well, the Bible says you should set your mind, you should seek after, you should strive for the things above, not on the things of the earth. We should seek heavenly things of God. Our focus should not be on this earth, on the things of this earth. I mean, we are, the Bible says that we are citizens of heaven. Yes, we live here on this earth, but this is our temporary home. So if we're here temporarily, then we should make our focus, and we shouldn't put so much effort into the things of here, of this earth. That's only temporary anyway. Not to say that we can't enjoy things, we can't enjoy the things of the earth. God says yes, He wants to bless us with material things. But that shouldn't be our main focus. We shouldn't strive for that. We shouldn't strive to really put all your effort into that. That should not be where our focus is on. And then 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 3. Chronicles chapter 29, verse 3. 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verse 3. It says, moreover, because I have set my affection to the house of my God, I have mine own proper good of gold and silver, which I have given to the house of my God, over and above all that I have prepared for the holy house. Even 3,000 talents of gold, the gold of Ophir, and 7,000 talents of refined silver, to overlay the walls of the house withal. Gold for things of gold, and the silver for things of silver, and for all manner of work to be made by the hands of artificers. And who then is willing to consecrate his service this day to the Lord? Then the chiefs of the fathers and princes of the tribes of Israel, and the captains of thousands and of hundreds, with the rulers of the king's work, offered willingly, and gave to the service of the house of God of gold 5,000 talents, and 10,000 derricks of silver, 10,000 talents of bronze, 18,000 talents, and 100,000 talents of iron. And whoever had precious stones gave them to the treasury of the house of the Lord, in the care of Jehiel the Gershonite. Then the people rejoiced, because these had given willingly, for with a whole and blameless heart they had offered freely to the Lord. King David also rejoiced greatly. So King David said, because I've set my affection on the house of my God. He set his mind he directed his mind to God. And so because of that, he had already prepared, because this was when God had told him to build God a temple for him to dwell in. And he had already made preparations, but he went above and beyond that. He then took from his own private treasury and gave. It was, I mean, I can't remember the calculations comes out to, but 3,000 talents of gold, 7,000 talents of refined silver, and I'm sure it's in today's currency, it's like billions and billions of dollars from his own private treasury that he gave willingly, and he called upon all the others to give. And it says they offered willingly. And then verse 9 it says, and then people rejoiced because they had given willingly with a whole and blameless heart, that they offered freely to the Lord. They rejoiced. I mean, they had joy. They were celebrating that they all gave willingly to the Lord. No one had to twist their arm to do that. They gave willingly, freely to God. So when your affections are set on God, and your love for Him is so great, that you'll do anything for Him. And that's where our focus should be. We should strive after Him, be consumed by Him. And when you do that, it'll then, that cause you, like when you strive after Him, when you're consumed with God, then you'll do what He says. And then when you do what He says to do, that'll guarantee you treasure in heaven. Because like I said before, when you do His will, when you seek Him and find out what His will is for your life, and then when you go ahead and then obey that, you set for yourself treasures in heaven. That's how you lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven. So make that your goal. Make setting up treasure in heaven. And don't make your focus here on earth, because it is only temporary, and we will not leave this earth with anything that we obtain here. You put all this effort into building treasure here, but only to leave it behind when you leave here. You're not going to be able to bring that with you. The only thing you can bring with you in heaven is our people. So make that your goal and put your focus on heavenly things, like the Bible says, to set your affections on things above and not of the earth. Amen.
Amen. Yep. You have to make a stand for God. Amen. Just like she said, many people say that they love God, but your love for God is in your actions, not in your words. There's people here that should be here today that told me that they love God, but they're not here. It doesn't matter how you feel when you sing and when you dance and when you pray. Your love for God is proved by your actions. And not only that, you can be here and not love God. You can be here because you had to come. Look at me. You can be here because you had to come here, not because you want to be here. That means you don't love God either. That should be an indicator to you that something is wrong with your heart. We love God because He first loved us. And we give Him our best because He, first of all, deserves it. Second of all, it already belongs to Him. And third of all, He gave us His best to show us as an example how we should react and respond to Him. Everything He's given us already belongs to Him. Your breath. Somebody I spoke to this morning said that they were in bed. They went to bed late. And I'm thinking, wow, you won't come to church because you're tired? But the very breath that you're snoring with is what God is giving you to breathe, but you can't get up and get to church? People will never be blessed if that's their commitment to God. And they don't seem to understand. You can be here because you have to be here. You will not be blessed. If you don't want Jesus when you come here, you're not going to be blessed. God wants you to respond to Him. Truth is responding to God in a way that is deserving of Him. If I'm not responding to God like I should, I'm not living in the truth. Many people don't live in the truth today. So as you get ready, as you get your gifts, come on, boys. As you get your gifts ready to go, come on. Just make sure that today that you're giving God your best, that you're blessing God, that you're not just putting something in an offering bucket, but you're blessing Him.
For greater things have yet to come, and greater